Good evening and welcome to the first ever episode of Greenlambkin Podcast. My name is Suzanne, I'm otherwise known as Greenlambkin on Instagram and Ravelry, and on Facebook I am Greenlambkin Yarn and also Greenlambkin Yarn on Etsy. Now I am going to be setting up, I have opened the group but I haven't done anything with it yet. I am going to put some very brief show notes where I'll basically just put links to anything that I mentioned that I've used on the in the Ravelry group, and that's going to be called Greenlambkin Podcast. So yes, that's me. I'm extremely nervous to say I'm sitting in a room on my own. I know everybody says this when they first make a podcast, but it's a really bizarre thing to do. I'm going to try my best to plough through it and sound as though I know what I'm talking about a little bit. But I've been watching podcasts for years and I really love them. I love being part of the community. I'm friends with lots of other podcasters on Instagram, Facebook, Ravelry, and for years I've imagined myself doing it and I've just never had the courage. And I've recently started dyeing yarn myself and also making stitch markers under the name Greenlambkin Yarn, and I want to share that with people. And I also want to share the projects that I'm enjoying making and maybe inspire a few people to try some of the things that I've been doing as well, because that's what it's all about really, isn't it? So I'm going to start without any further babble with some finished objects. Now I've got quite a few actually, probably more than I'm going to have regularly, because I've been working on a lot of bits and bobs for my children and some other people for Christmas. So first of all, I'm making a pair of slipper boots for each of my children. I've got a little boy who's 4 called Cosmo and a little girl 7 and her name's Ivy. And I'm making them both a pair of slipper boots, and it's a Deramores pattern, and I believe the number is 2008, and it's available on Ravelry, and it was a paid for pattern, but I didn't pay very much for it, so I've actually been really happy with it. So I'm making these, bearing in mind that they're for children and we live in a house with wooden floors and a cat. I'm probably going to need to wash these quite frequently, so I've made them out of really, really cheap and tacky acrylic chunky weight yarn. And that's absolutely fine with me. They'll keep the feet nice and warm. They look very funky and cute, and that's, you know, they serve a purpose. So here's the first pair. Now I'm not sure how well the colours are going to work. This is the only opportunity I've been able to find to film so far, so I apologise for the fact that it's artificial lighting. In future I'm going to try and do it in the daylight when I can. So if I just get a little bit closer with this, I've put a pom-pom on the top. I'm going to put my hand in actually so you get a bit more of a feel for the shape of the bit. Ah, that's better. You can see a little bit more of it now. Now the yarn that I've used for these is Stylecraft Harlequin Chunky, and it goes through all these colours. This is showing as more red than it is. It's actually more of a fiery orange, but then the other colours, the green, the bluey purples, they all actually look really accurate. And I made the pom-poms out of this as well, and I also put a bit of other neon yarn in there just to make them look a little bit more perky. So that's Cosmo's pair, and I am working on Ivy's pair at the moment. So I will show those to you even though I've not finished them yet. I'm strictly not in works in progress yet, but Ivy's I'm doing in a solid purple, and I'm using my egg crochet hook, which I think it's called the Elegant crochet hook, and I do use this on and off because I've done so much crochet in my time that I've caused myself some it's called tenosynovitis, and it's the sheaths that are around your tendons have been sort of damaged by the amount of crochet that I've done. And although I don't always have a problem with it, I do find I need to use a hook with either quite a chunky grip. I like to use the Flea Bubs Fimo handle crochet hooks because they're great for it, but because this is a chunky yarn and it's actually using a 4.5mm hook with a manky elastic band on the bottom of it, we'll try and ignore that. It was actually really hurting my wrists. I did the first of Cosmo's slippers with a normal hook, and I had to give myself a week off because it was really hurting, and then I thought, right, I'll use the egg for the rest of them, and actually I've had no problems since I've been working with the egg, so that makes a real difference. So the yarn I'm using for this is Hayfield Bonus Chunky. Oh, it's back to front. You'll have to take my word for it. So that's for the main body of the slippers, and then I've got this James Seabreck Party Time, which is a lovely rainbow. I think the blues are showing out a lot darker than they actually are. That bluey purple is a lot more tonal with the other colours. It's not as prominent as it looks there. And again, this is all acrylic, and I'm trying to decide whether to just do pom-poms with this or whether I might actually crochet little stars to applique on. I suppose it will depend on A, how much time I've got, and B, how much inclination I've got to do it. So I guess it's probably going to be pom-poms, but I'll make that decision a bit nearer the time when I've done them. What next? Right, this is I'm very excited about. I have designed quite a lot of knitting patterns over the years. I've had quite a few published actually a long time ago, before both the kids were born, in various British knitting magazines like Knit Today, Simply Knitting, and I am on Ravelry as a designer, but I've been dormant for a very long time because basically I've not had the brain power with having 2 kids and various other things that have gone on in my life to think about designing. But I've recently come back to it, and what spurred me to think about this particular project was that my mum, her house is quite a cold house, and she was complaining to me when I was up there with her the other day that her hands were really chilly in the house, and that she'd really like it. She ought to get a pair of fingerless mitts for herself, or make a pair that she could just wear while she was around the house. And I'd seen that Mina Phillip from the Knitting Expat podcast had done a pair of mitts with a nice roll down top on them, so they were quite long and covered almost up to the tips of her fingers, but then she could roll them back, and I really liked that idea. And I thought, oh, you've done loads of mittens in the past, Suzanne, come on, let's have a go. So my mum, she'll hate me for telling you if she ever finds out, because it's a bit of a secret really, but my nickname for her is Squirrel, for various reasons which I won't go into because she'll be humiliated enough that I've told you in the first place. So this pattern is called the Squirrel Mitts, and I knitted these as the prototype. And again, the colour, it's showing up as really red and blowing out a little bit, but it's actually a sort of a semi-solid orange with flecks of sort of darker orangey reds and palely yellow colours. And this is actually some yarn that I hand dyed when I was first trying it out, and it was actually some that I'd got that it was far too pastel for my liking, being sent it as part of one of these groups where you subscribe for so many different months worth, like a yarn club. So I overdyed it, and it took really nicely, and I'm really happy with how it's knitted into these mittens. So if I put one on to show you, it's really simple. It's knitted from the wrist up to the tips, and you can roll it right down so that it's more practical, or if you're wanting to keep your fingers cosy, you can. And my mum has smaller hands than me, so more of her fingers will be hidden than I've got here. And it's a really simple pattern, 1x1 rib and stocking stitch, and then I used the is it Judy's or Jenny's? I think it's Judy's surprisingly stretchy bind off, if you're in the US, and then it's just got a really simple 2-way antler type cable going up the back, and I'm actually quite excited to use the basis of this pattern because I'm really happy with the fit of it. Oh, and an afterthought thumb, which has just got a couple of little decreases in it, and then 1x1 rib with the same cast off again. And I'm quite excited. I really love the fit of them. They're much nicer than any other mittens I've ever designed before. They really seem to hug your hand, and that's what I was looking for, something that will keep you really cosy. And I really would like to use the same basis and then apply different stitch patterns here. So I'm having a play about with that, and I'll show you when I get to works in progress, but I am actually working on a second set of these and writing the pattern as I'm going along now. So I'm hoping to release that pattern onto Ravelry in January sometime. My sisters are going to test knit it for me. So the next thing is more Christmas presents, and these are for the children too. And I knitted them a pair of mittens and a Kit Kat hat each, which is a pattern by Andre Sue, who has the Andre Sue podcast. And the yarn that I used, here are the hats, and they've just got a little stitch here so that when they're on the head of said child, they form these little points which look like kitty ears. So the yarn that I've used is James Seabrett. James Seabrett Woodlander DK, and the one for Cosmo is a bluey, shades of blue, and the colour name is L2, and then Ivy's is pink L10. I really love the greys in this. Now I've got some little heart-shaped buttons, and I'm planning, well, I'm still deliberating, but I think I'm going to give these little hats a nose, mouth and eyes with buttons and a little bit of simple stitching. So that's those, and then to go with is really simple basic mitts. Now the colour repeats are really long. Sorry, my back's hurting. The colour repeats are really long in this yarn, and especially in the one that I use for Cosmo. And so because he's only got quite dinky hands, what I did was one mitten came out very light and one mitten came out very dark. So I tried to alternate it, and I actually took a bit of yarn off in between so that the dark one had a light thumb and the light one had a dark thumb. Again, this isn't a pattern, I just made it up as I went along. So you can see he's 4 breeds big. Both my children are very tall, and they're quite well built as well. Like me, I'm broad boned, and so is my husband, so they weren't going to be sprats. So I've made them both with growing room. Now the hat, particularly Cosmo's hat, looks really tiny, but it's very, very elastic, and I actually can get it on my head. I mean, it looks ridiculous, but it does actually fit me. So I'm hoping that will. I wanted to make nice, snug, cosy hats, and I knitted these on circular needles, and I used, I think they're Knit Pro Nova interchangeable tips, and I used a 3.75mm needle, and I did that so that it would create quite a dense, windproof yarn, because we live in Derbyshire. I live in Chesterfield in Derbyshire in the UK, and we are blessed to have the Peak District right on our doorstep. We really love getting outside and getting out in the fresh air and exercising, and especially we do that a lot in the winter when it's cooler and we can manage longer walks with the kids. So I wanted something that would keep them really cosy, and when that wind up the top of the peaks is howling, it'll sort of keep them quite cosy. And then here's Ivy's mittens, and they're actually a bit small, but they actually do fit me. And again, she's 7, but she's in age 9 to 10 clothes, so hopefully these will fit them both well enough for now, but they will also hopefully have a year or two of room in them. And so my final finished object for the night is a pair of socks, and they are mine, and I'm very excited about these because this is my first ever Christmas hand-dyed yarn. And it was when I first started thinking about becoming an indie dyer one day, I was one of the first things that made me think about it was all these gorgeous hand-dyed Christmas yarns, and I bought some last year for a Christmas Eve cast on, which is Danny from the Little Bobbins podcast's baby, and I love it. Last year was the first year I did it, and I'm already queued up and ready for what I'm going to be casting on this Christmas Eve. And I thought to myself, because there's a lot of very sort of traditional Christmassy colourways out there, like reds and greens and whites and golds and all those kind of gorgeous colours, and I love them, but actually Christmas to me is much more of a multicoloured affair. When I was growing up, our Christmas tree had a rainbow of decorations or ornaments all over it, multicoloured lights, really retro. I was a child of the 80s, 1980 I was born, so there was a bit of a 70s throwback in my childhood, and also, you know, the 80s, and there were lots of bright colours, and people didn't have themes to their Christmas trees, and whenever I see a Christmas tree that has all the different colours, and it's sort of like something from a magical kingdom, it makes me feel really nostalgic and reminds me of the Christmases of my childhood. And in our family, for a long time now, I think it was a term that my dad coined, we've always called baubles or Christmas tree ornaments shinies. And me and my mum and my two sisters, we even go on what we call our shiny trip every year, where we go to a really nice garden centre for coffee and cake, and then we go and look at their fantastic selection of baubles and buy a couple of choice treasures for the Christmas tree. So I wanted to dye a yarn which sort of represented the Christmas trees of my childhood, and I wanted something that was like all the colours of the evergreens, with the multicoloured fairy lights and the twinkling baubles and tinsel. And so I chose to make vintage shinies. Now if I hold this quite close, I think, oh, you can see the sparkle too. So this is on a sparkle base, a sparkle sock base, and it's 75% merino, 20% nylon and 5% stellina. And the colours are, as I say, these evergreeny dark green shades, and then lighter green shades with pinks, purples, turquoise, orange, yellow, all the colours of the gorgeous. We used to have a set of fairy lights that we had a cork area on the wall in the dining room, and my dad used to pin this string of fairy lights along it, which they were like flowers with foil and cellophane sort of backings to make them look like rosettes. And then we used to have a little Christmas tree on the sideboard in front of it, and onto this cork area on the wall it was just made out of cork tiles. We used to pin all of the Christmas cards onto it with the fairy lights shining, and these colours just make me think of those fairy lights. So that was my first ever Christmas yarn. Now it is available in the shop on pre-order, and the shop is Greenlambkin Yarns on Etsy, and I will link it in the show notes. Maybe useful links page might be a better name for it. The sock itself is, I think it's a 60 stitch. I vary between doing 60 and 64 depending on what I want the socks for. If I'm going to wear them on their own, I do 60. If I'm using them as a pair of boot socks and I'm going to put them on over a normal pair of shop bought socks, I do 64 to give me a bit more room. But I think these were a 60. So it's a 2x2 rib, and then a normal stocking stitch. This is my sort of vanilla, my vanilla sock recipe really. This is a normal heel flap, heel turn and gusset, which I've always used, and I do a slip stitch pattern for reinforcement. On the decreases here, where I do the pick up and knit, I don't know if you're going to, you might be able to just see it there a little bit. What I like to do is, after the pick up and knit on the first row, round, the heel flap stitches that I've picked up along here, I knit those through the back of the loop, and that really tightens up and makes that seam much neater and also much sturdier. And then it's a normal knit two together on one side and an SSK on the other side for the heel gusset decreases, and then a normal toe, very traditional toe decrease, same, knit one, knit two together, knit to the last 3 stitches, slip, slip, knit and knit one, and then I've just gone down to, I usually go down to 10 stitches because I hate Kitchener stitch. So I try to do as little of it as possible, and then I've Kitchenered the toes together. So these I am prodigiously proud of, and I really love them, and I love my yarn. I really love it. I'm very proud of it. So I'm going to show you some of that in the skein when I come to shop talk at the end. So let me just look at my notes. That's all the finished items. So we're on to the whips. So first of all, This is the second incarnation of my squirrel mitts, and this is another yarn that I've dyed up now. This is a colourway that I want to bring out in the new year, but this was my first attempt at it, and I didn't get quite the saturation of colours that I wanted. So it's purpley pinks and blues, and I'm looking for a bit of a sort of galactic, starry constellation kind of colourway. And again, this is a DK merino with stellina in it because I love sparkle. But I am actually really happy with this colour, but I just want it to be a little bit darker. So this is mine. This is what happens when Suzanne makes dyeing mistakes. She gets to keep the yarn. And this is the second lot of the squirrel mitts. So, you can see the stitches a lot better on this. Excuse my manky nail varnish. Need to get that off quick, sharpish. So yeah, there's the cable, and I'm coming up to starting the rib. And then on the other side, you can see there I've got my, this is a DK weight wool, and I am using a 4-ply cotton, mercerised cotton yarn for my afterthought thumb gap, which makes it really easy to get out. And I'm knitting these on the same needles that I knitted the hats and mitts for Ivy and Cosmo, which is the Knit Pro Nova's interchangeables, and I think this is an 80 centimetre cable, and this is a little stitch marker that I made for myself. My mum went to the Harrogate Knitting and Stitching show. I think you can see it's got a really lovely lustre on it, that bead, but I don't think you can see very well what it looks like because of the light. It's sort of frosty. Yeah, so I didn't get the chance to go to the Knitting and Stitching show this year, so I gave my mum some cash and asked her to go to the Spellbound Bead Company and buy me a £5's worth of beads that she thought I might like to make some stitch markers with, because I love doing it and I haven't had a chance to get out and get... Oh, that's better. I can see it better now. You're going to have to be patient with me. I am learning this job, so I'm sure I'll get better. I'm quite a quick learner. So you just have to bear with me while I work out what I'm doing. So yes, that's a stitch marker I made for myself with a pretty heart. I'll put this back away so that I don't get all untangled and messed up. Oh, I suppose I should show you my project bag. I can't remember the name of the maker, but I know this came from a shop on Etsy, and it was 2 Christmases ago, and this was a present for me from my children. I might have given Daddy a hint. Which I do every year. This year, I've asked for an iPhone tripod, so then you won't be stacked up on half a dozen copies of Delia Smith and Mary Berry cooking books. But this is a really nice drawstring project bag, and I can see the Christmas trees in there. All those vintage colours! And it's padded, which is really nice as well. And it's just got a nice light cream lining. So, Christmas time, the Christmas bags have got to come out. The second work in progress is, it's been on a bit of a hiatus with me knitting my vintage shiny socks, but this is the yoga leg warmers, and I'm really sorry, but I failed to look up the designer's name, but I will link it on Ravelry, and I'll try and remember to tell you next time I podcast. I'm knitting this in the Regia Flormania colour, 4-ply sock yarn, and it's this, I think it's called Flowers, and it's a gorgeous fluorescent green, pink, purple, and then a really dark sort of indigo colour. And this is it so far. So this is where the toes go. Turn it this way up, and then the heel comes through this gap here, and then I'm going up the leg, and there is like a double, like knit 2, purl 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, double rib going up the back of it. And the pattern calls for you to cast on 68 stitches, which I know is far too big for me. I have just the one bit of me that is slim, which is my feet and my ankles, and I knew that would be too big, so I've reduced it to 60 stitches. So I've just subtracted the number of stitches on either side of the little patterned bit in the back there. And as you go up the leg, you start putting some increases in, and I don't think I will go as high as in the pattern, because they come up to sort of mid-calf height, and I don't need that. I'm really quite a warm-bodied person, and I think they'll just irritate me if they're that high. So I'll probably come sort of to the part where your calf just starts to widen out will be high enough for me. And also it means that I have lots of the yarn left for my own Cozy Memories blanket and for sharing with other people, because I love doing mini skein swaps for my blanket. It makes me really happy, and I actually just gifted some mini skeins as part of the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted, and it just makes me feel all excited. And this is in a little bag that I got from the Beatrix Potter house, which is in Cumbria. We were up there when, as part of the knitting group that I'm part of, we organised a trip to Woolfest in Cumbria, which was fantastic. Such a lovely time. And then the next day we went to, it's a National Trust property, and we went to visit the house that Beatrix Potter lived in and where she wrote a lot of her stories. And I got this in the this little Peter Rabbit bag in the gift shop there, and it was very reasonable. I think it might have been £5 or £6. Very cute. I've got coffee in my Christmas mug. It's just basic Americano. I do love lots of different teas and coffees, but there wasn't really time for that. So I've just got the good old standard coffee. And the next pattern piece that I'm working on at the moment is the Siphon block. I'm going to have to take this off, I'm red hot. I wanted to wear a hand knit for you, but I told you I'm warm-blooded and I get very hot very easily. So this is a Colour Affection shawl that I knitted last winter. Perhaps tell you another time what's in this, because yarn-wise, because I'm going to prattle on for too long if not. So this is the Siphon Blazen scarf, which is a design by Sybil R. Again, I put it on the Ravelry group, and I am knitting this in some handspun that I made last year. So here's the handspun first, and this is a BFL, which it was the first time I'd ever spun with it, and it smells so sheepy and yummy. So this is a very sort of not great colours. Not a great depiction of the colour. It's purpley, very dark royal purplies and sort of tealy greens, emeraldy greens. That was one braid, and then this is the other braid, which is looking a bit more reddy yellow than it ought to be, but that's a bit better. And actually I'm a little bit worried about whether there seems to be a lot more of this left than this, which is bizarre because both the braids weighed the same and I spun them a very similar weight, and I've used equal amounts of them in the scarf. So I don't know whether I was wildly off with my yardage and my spinning. I don't know. Anyway, I'll show you the scarf. So I'm going to have to show you this in sections. I'm well over halfway done with this, but this has been a bit of an on and off project again. It's been on the back burner because I have been knitting Chrissy Prezzies, which are all done now. Well, they just need the finishing touches. So you can see I'm well on the way. I think I'm going to have enough, but I hate playing yarn chicken. This makes me nervous, especially with it being hand spun, which means I'm going to knit faster, which is good really, but not quite the relaxing experience that I'm looking for. So anyway, I have just finished a row of this, so perhaps that's why it feels quite a lot smaller, because it's a fat, long row. So the pattern, this is the top edge and this is the bottom. You can't really tell yet because it's not blocked, but where the changes in colour are in the sections, these will be, you can see better here, these will be blocked out, and it will have a sort of a really nice shallow scalloped edge. So yeah, it's going to need it. It's got a lot of darning in of ends and a lot of blocking required. I am knitting this on interchangeable points, and these are the Knit Pro, or in America I think you call them Knitter's Pride carbons, and I really enjoy these. I really do. They are very, I like them because they've got the benefit of having the lovely shiny pointy tips, And I like pointy tips, but I sometimes struggle when they're too pointy because I have really nasty, it's not dry skin, you're not going to be able to see it, not dry skin as such, not like flaky or eczema-y, but I do have very porous skin, and particularly because I'm left-handed, on my left index finger, when I knit too many socks or anything on too fine or pointy a needle, I actually make a little hole in the end of my index finger, just here, right on the pad, and every time the needle goes in it, it's agony. So then I have to knit with a plaster on. So anything too pointy is just asking for trouble. So this is living in a bag that I got when I was at Woolfest. And this is gorgeous, and I am going to be really bad, and I'm going to forget the name of the maker. Something Quince. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look her up, and I will link to her. She's a British maker, and she is the mum of Katie from the Hilltop Cloud Fibre Company. And this bag is beautifully made. So it's a drawstring, and it's got one of those little ripcord type, like spring-loaded toggle type things on it. Sorry, I've got the BFL out, and now my nose is really tickly. And this bag was extraordinary value. It's a circular bottomed bag, and it was £10. And it's padded, and it's owly. I've got a real thing for owls. So I felt as though I got a really good bargain when I bought this bag. And I will, not Quince Jam, I'm going to find her and I will link to her. And next time I podcast, I will try and remember to tell you as well. I'm terrible with names, anything like that. And it's really memorable as well. It's a really clever little name. I'm just a really daft person. Anyway, so the last work in progress I'm going to show you today is my Cozy Memories blanket. I can't show it all off to you because it's huge, but what I think I will do, because I've not taken a progress shot of it for a while, so what I'll do is tomorrow, when it's nice and light, I'll lay it all out on the floor and take a photograph of it from standing up on a chair, and then I will put it into the group, because then you'll be able to see it better. But I'm just going to show you the most recent additions to my lovely blanket. If you just get some idea of how huge it is. That's the bottom corner. These were the first ones I did. And I think it's, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's 16 squares high and 14 across at the moment. And it's I'm doing a 31 stitch because I like instant gratification. So 31 stitches can be done in 20-25 minutes, and I like the fact that it's the small squares make it more patchworky, more Molly Weasley-ish, because I love Harry Potter, as most knitters seem to. And I've got all sorts in there, quite a few yarns from swaps, lots of memories, as is supposed to be. This one here, this greeny blue one and black and white, was the first ever pair of socks I knitted, and I've still got some of that left. But anyway, I was going to not let myself work on this until I'd finished off everything for Christmas, because I was trying to be a good girl, but I'm not. I'm just really naughty, and I've been getting minis, and because of that, I wanted to put them in. So this is the vintage shinies. Couldn't wait to put that in. That was the main reason, because I cast off the socks and I immediately wanted to put it in. And then these two are both Araucaria Ranco. Now I'm doing an advent swap with my good friend Paula, who lives in the same town as me. So each day I'm opening a little package, and these are both from Paula. And this is another one of my yarns. This is another Christmas colourway, which is called Candy Cane Forest. And then these two were both from a lovely lady who I believe lives in France, and I actually put a wish out there on the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted and asked for some minis myself, and she sent me some beauties, and these were two from her. I'll tell you who she is in a minute, because I'm going to show you the minis that she sent me. That was another one from her, and this was one from Paula. And then this one here, I can't remember what she said. This one, I think she really likes Rose's Moments. These ones from the lady in France, they didn't have any makers' names on them or brands. I think she said this, Paula said that this is a Rose's Moments yarn, who's a British dyer. And this is my third Christmas colourway, which is called Gingerbread Cottage. This was an Unbeliever wool from Paula. And then this is the one that I'm currently putting on, which was also from Paula. And she hasn't put what this is, but I'm fairly confident, I know, that this is one of the West Yorkshire spinners. It came eventually from the British Birds range. I think it might be Goldfinch. And here it is, and Paula, oh, no it's not, it's Opal. I do apologise, she's written it on there. Well, I was really confident that that was one of the bird ones. Well, it's very similar. Anyway, Paula has put them all on these lovely little dolly pegs. And my daughter Ivy today has been given a book with how to make dolly peg princesses and fairies. So she's going to have 24 of them after the Advent period has passed. So that's my blanket. So I will probably just show this from time to time. So for acquisitions, or wool piggery, or whatever you would like to call it, I'm just going to show you the lovely bits and bobs. I can tell you what, oh, that's a question mark. She doesn't know what that one is. That's that one that I said I thought was Rose's Moments, but it's not. So I'll just very briefly show you. The ones on the pegs are from Paula. This is some of the Araucaria Ranco. This is Rose's Moments. That's gorgeous. That one's going to have to go in soon. And another Araucaria one. This is Unbelievable. Another lovely British dyer. More Rose's Moments. These are so pretty, delicate. Rose's Moments again. And I know this is another Unbelievable because she does the most fantastic rainbows. In fact, that's one of the yarns that I used in my Colour Affection shawl is a rainbow dyed skein from Unbelievable. This is a very fatty one. Another Rose's Moments. Is that all the pegs? Oh no, there's one hiding down here. This is a cottony one, but it's really pretty, sort of faded lilac colour. That's all the pegs. So that's how far I've got. And then she's put in all these little rick-rack braid one day, and then some really pretty lace another day. And one day I got some chockies. And then I've had these little tiny bottles with some buttons and some beads. And, which I'm really excited about because I've never actually tried this, some Euclan wool wash in a tiny little sachet, which I can't hold. And it's the grapefruit scent. So I'm saving this and I'm going to soak my Siphon blazon scarf in this when I come to block it. So that's all of the bits from Paula, and then I'm just going to go onto Instagram because I cannot remember the name of the lovely lady from France who sent me some lovely minis as a gift. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to... Now, I'm really crap at French, and I mean really crap. So on Instagram she is la_mercier_magique, I think. But anyway, she's lovely. I think she's a yarn shop owner in Paris, and she sent me all these lovely minis. I've got this bowl next to my Advent calendar, which is sitting in a basket next door. And every day when I open it, I put my minis into it. So these, as I say, don't have names on, but they're all really lovely. Oh, I love this one. The colour of that is gorgeous. It's coming out a little bit bluier than it is. It's a bit more of a mauvey purple. This is really pretty, sort of jewelly colours. Feel a bit like not Family Fortunes, what was that thing called with Bruce Forsyth, where everything went back on a conveyor, passed on a conveyor belt. This isn't wool, this is something more, or not, at least not all wool. I'm sure this is something linen-y. This is cottony, really lovely sort of blue, faded bluebell kind of blue. Rich chocolate brown. Sort of a speckledy, tweedy teal. And then these are the two that I've already put in. Gorgeous, sort of acidy lemon yellow. And again, that's getting what they call blown out. It's a lot yellower than that. And this, I'm sure this has got some Angora or mohair of some kind in it. It's so silky soft. So that's all of those. Oh, look at these little beads that came in a little bottle as well. Definitely going to be making some stitch markers from those. And because I think you've been very good this year, and because I haven't had a chance to do it yet today, I've got my number 12 parcel, and I thought you might like to, open it with me. Something is dangling out of it, look. Oh, there was a bracelet in one day, and I've not had a chance to try it on yet. Oh, and here's another bracelet. Oh, and the yarn's gorgeous too. Look, the other bracelet that I got, I'm sure, oh yes you can, it's got this beautiful set twinkly stone flower on it. And then it's on like a sort of a silky cord. And the other one that I had from her was exactly the same, only this was like a lovely corally colour. So I guess you could wear them all together. Oh, really pretty. And the yarn is Rosie's Moments. And look at those colours. Again, not doing it justice with this lighting really, but that's the most electric green. Like a really bluey green. And then a dark indigo blue with bits of paler blue and white in it. I love it. That's going into Blanky tomorrow. So, I think I can go on to what's in my queue. So what I'm going to be doing next, and at the moment I've only got one thing really queued up. I want to, when I finish the Siphon blouse, and I've got some more hand spun, which I really want to make into like a really simple cowl. I don't think I'll even look for a pattern. I think I've more or less got an idea of what I want to do with it in my head. I want it to be really simple because the hand spun, it's some, I made myself a blending board last year, and I made some sort of fake poony Rolags, and it's got slubs of silky stuff in it and things. So I don't want a pattern that will sort of overwhelm it and look too much. I want the yarn to be able to speak for itself. So that's the only other thing I've really got in the queue. But here is a Christmas bag that I made last year, and I made one for me and one for my mummy and one for each of my sisters, and it's got purple ribbon for a drawstring, and inside it has little purple polka dot fabric, and you got a sneak peek of the yarn there. For Christmas last year, my sister bought me this because I absolutely adored it, and I've been a really good girl and I've kept it all year long, put it straight in the bag on Christmas Day and put it in the cupboard for Christmas Eve this year. And this is the West Yorkshire Spinners, and this is the Christmas set that they came out with last year. I don't know if they've done a new one this year, I haven't seen one. Again, looking a bit more luminous than it really is. This is Cherry Drop, which is a gorgeous sort of slightly faded vintage red in real life. And this is Hollyberry, and this knits up into this beautiful sort of speckled stripy pattern. And this is the signature 4-ply, which I believe has, 35% BFL, and it's lovely, and it's squishy, and it's going to make really nice sturdy socks. I have my needles already, which are Chowgoo, you see, red lace, and they are quite pointy, so I'm probably going to have the plasters out for those. And I also have my little progress keeper all ready to go, and this is one that I've made, and this is a lamp blown bead from a seller on Etsy whose name I can't remember. Sue is her name. Glitter Armour Crafts, I think it was called. It won't stay still. But anyway, that's it, and it's just got a little lobster claw clasp. I just remembered something else that came from the Advent swap was a progress keeper with one of these sort of hingeable earring clasps on it, which I've ordered some of, so I'll be getting some of those in the new year. And it's got a lovely sort of duochrome, sparkly, twinkly bead. But I liked it so much, I'm wearing it as an earring, because I do love jewellery, love earrings. So that's all ready for Christmas Eve. And I've just found, and I've forgotten about this little dude completely, some lip balm or lip gloss in the shape of a gingerbread man, which also was a gift from my sister last Christmas. And it smells really yummy. You can see it's sparkly inside. You can wear it over the top of your lipstick and make it all shimmery. So I am waiting with bated breath to cast on my socks on Christmas Eve morning whilst watching a Christmas film on the settee in my dressing gown with the children. So that's that. And finally, I want to tell you about a giveaway that I've got going and show you a little bit about what kind of products I've got in my shop. Now, the giveaway I have organised and is already live on Instagram. At the moment, I'm not technically confident enough. I'm not going to say able, because I will be able, but at the moment I can't quite get my little head around how I would run it on Facebook and Instagram consecutively and make it a fair deal with how to select a person, if you know what I mean. So I'm just doing it on Instagram now. I know some people aren't on Instagram and have said, oh, I can't. So I think what I'll do next time is I'll do a giveaway on Facebook. But I've got a lot more followers on Instagram, so it made sense to make it available to most people. So the little giveaway that I'm doing at the moment is 3 20-gram mini skeins of my yarn, and these are the 3 Christmas colourways. So this is Candy Cane Forest, which is a pop reference to Elf. I almost called it the 7 levels of the Candy Cane Forest, but I thought that's a bit too much of a gobful. And then this is the Gingerbread Cottage, and the vintage shinies at the front, which is my pride and joy. And so to go along with that, I've got a set of these stitch markers, which I'm hoping you'll be able to see okay. Yeah, I think you can see those, can't you? I can hardly see me, but are they focusing? They're like oh, there you go. This sort of Christmassy green stippled metallic bauble, and then a glass crackle bead, and then a glass crackle bead on top, and they've just got a little green shiny seed bead at the top and the bottom. And these sets have 5 different colours. 4 of these are like a split ring marker, and then the 5th one in the middle is, and I don't think you can see this at all, a lobster claw progress keeper type. Oh, you can see it a bit there. So there's going to be a set of those, and then also one of the toadstool progress markers keepers, because you can never have too many. And quite frankly, I see a lot of people using them as knitting jewellery now, and they've got half a dozen hanging all over the project, and I think, why not? If we deserve jewellery, our knitting deserves jewellery. And then also some yogi tea, because I love yogi tea. And there are 2 flavours, and there's licorice. And I've tasted some disgusting licorice teas in my time, but this is not one of them. And the other one, which I need to get some more of because I'm nearly run out, which is Christmas tea. Oh, it's so festive and spicy, and it's like drinking mulled wine but without the wine, which, nah, it's not much fun, but if it's a school night, it's the next best thing. So, yarns and stitch markers. So this is my Candy Cane Forest yarn, and this is on the Stellina base, so it's the same contents as the vintage shinies. It's 75% merino, 20% nylon and 5% Stellina, and it has these lime greens, raspberry reds, ruby reds, and then this lovely It's called emerald green. It's very tealy, and it actually breaks a bit when you dye with it, which I love, because then you get these little pops of lime coming through as well. So that's candy cane forest, and these are so soft, and they smell nice as well because I use something fruity to wash them in afterwards. So that's candy cane forest. This one is Gingerbread Cottage, and I'm very proud of myself for this one. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out, but I'm really happy. So this goldeny browny gingerbread colour sort of represents the gingerbread of the house, and then the white parts are the icing. See if I can find a better white part like here, look. There's white, and then we have gumdrops of 3 colours. We have lemon gumdrops, lime gumdrops, and blackcurrant gumdrops. And that's another one of the colours that sort of breaks a little bit when you're dyeing with it, and you get these lovely hot pinks as well as the purples coming through in it. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I love it, and if I like it, well then I'm happy with the product. So, and then this is the vintage shinies colourway, which looks really nice in its skein, if I do say so myself. And this one's actually wending its way out to a customer tomorrow. So that's that, and these are all on the same silver sparkle base. Then I thought I'd show you my mini skein kit that I've made. Oh, I should probably tell you how much these are. These are £14 a skein in Great British pounds. And then this is, I'm going to show you these. Not very easily, and one at a time I think. These are some mini skeins, and these are 20 grams each, so they're quite sizable ones. I like a sizable mini skein. And these are all kettle dyed colours. I should tell you that those 3 are all hand painted, and then these are all kettle or immersion dyed, so that's the second one. Oh, that works quite well. I'll do that with all of them. There's the third one, and they're all sort of semi-solid or sort of tonal kind of colours. It's a greeny yellow, and this one which is my favourite, which just makes me think of bonfire night. Showing, oh, that's better, showing up a little bit brighter than it actually is, and that's a lovely orange with embers. So that's available in the shop as well. And then finally, I've just bought a selection of stitch markers to show you. So these are all the same sort of composition as the ones that are part of the giveaway. I'm really disorganised. I should have told you that that's on the Greenlambkin page on Instagram. So if you go over there and follow me, you'll find it, and just follow the rules. So then these stitch markers are sort of Christmassy inspired twinkly beads and sort of lovely rich pearly cherry hollyberry type of beads, and they've got tiny little green seed beads on as well. And again, that's 4 split ring stitch markers and a progress keeper. And then these are sort of the opposite, the negative of those. I've got a big sparkly bead and a smaller red one. Again, so that's not very good. Is that better? Yeah. So that's the same. And I've already shown you these, but there's another set of the Christmas tree sort of vintage shinies inspired markers. And then I also haven't put these in the shop yet, but I've made quite a few more of these toadstool, these lampwork toadstool progress keepers. There's a blue, and if I can get it to untwist, there we go. There's a red one, and there's quite a variety of colours of those. So, I think that concludes. I don't think I should talk anymore really, because I've said quite a lot to you. I'm hoping to make it a regular thing to podcast on a Monday at some point. That's the one day in the week where the kids are usually both in their learning environments all day long. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to do it in the daytime in future. But I also like to try and get quite a bit of dyeing done on a Monday. So depending on what I've got on, I'm going to either try to podcast during the day or in the evening if I don't get a chance to fit it in. I'm going to aim to try and go weekly, but we'll see how it pans out. I really can't think of anything else to tell you, and as soon as I press stop, I know I am going to. But what I will do is put as much information into the Ravelry group, Greenlambkin Podcast, as I can. And you can find me, as I said, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Ravelry as either Green Lambkin or Green Lambkin Yarns. Do you know, I've really enjoyed doing this. I've really enjoyed talking to you about my projects and showing you my yarn. And I hope you've enjoyed it too. And I hope you'll come back and join me again. And I might even, because I am a little bit Christmas obsessed, next time I might even try and be clever with some editing and show you my Christmas decorations. Would you like to see them? I'd like to show you them. Okay, I'm going to stop before I start telling you all about them individually. It's been lovely talking to you, and I will see you again next week. Bye!